Welcome to the Oddschecker Cheltenham Festival preview. This is day 2, where I'm joined by 3 expert panelists who are going to look for the value in each race of the day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. I'm joined by racing journalist and tipster Tony Calvin, Oddschecker's very own tipster Andy Holding, and Joe Chambers, who's racing manager for Susannah Ricci. So a stellar cast here. Just going to quickly mention the Oddschecker IJF campaign, where we'll be donating 5p for every bet over £1 placed either through the Oddschecker site using QuickBet or through the app to the IJF. It's an unbelievably important cause. I've been travelling around the country for the last couple of weeks speaking to jockeys and visiting their centres at Oaksey House and at Jackberry House, and it really is important that people get behind it. So if you haven't downloaded the app yet, do so, and throughout the festival, throughout the week of the festival, any bets over £1, we will be donating 5p to the IJF. Let's get going then, and straight into the Ballymore, where we've got Champ is the 3-1 favourite, Battle Over Doyen, who Andy you tipped at a fair old price a few weeks ago, at 5-1, Classical Dream 8-1, City Island 11-1, Brewing Up a Storm, who I know, Joe, you're very keen on, Birchdale 14-1, Angel's Breath 14-1, who we don't expect to run in the race, and then 16-1 Bar. Andy, coming to you first, and let's talk about Battle Over Doyen.
Yeah, let's talk about that Lawless of Nace Novices Hurdle, Grade 1 at Nace back in January. Without shadow of a doubt, this is the best trial I've seen so far this season, both visually and the participants that took part in it, and the time figure as well. I love the horse that won it, Battle Over Doyen. I think he's a proper chaser. You look at him, he dwarfed the other horses in that race. He travelled well, got to the front 2 out with a good jump, and then once he sort of had to get his head down and battle, and once he hit the hill, he really did grind it out. He's the kind of horse that's got a little bit of everything. Now, he looks slow to the naked eye, but going back and doing the numbers that they clocked that day, he was trapping along at a fair rate of knots. There was a main hurdle won by a horse called Valdia, won the first Noel Meads horse, who's a genuine 2-miler. He was basically a second and a half quicker than Valdia from the back of the second last, and that Valdia's can operate at a good level as well. Circuit time was good, which is something I always look for as well. That was 4 seconds quicker than Valdia. And the further he went, the better he looked. And the fact that Gordon Elliott's left him off as well, I think that signals his intent. He knows he's got a Ballymore horse, so he didn't really want to risk him. There was no point. He didn't have anything to gain by running him at the Dublin Festival. He'll go there fresh. He won first time out this year off the back of a 592-day layoff when he won a decent bumper. He's used to running in a big field, so if there was a big field in this, he's fine. He's covered on that ground. On that front, he'll handle soft. If it went soft, he's got good ground form. He's a lovely mover. I can't really find any fault in him. And of course, the Connections won it last year with Sam Crow as well. So I think he should be favourite. With Champ, I do like Champ. There's mixed messages with regards to that shallow hurdle form. You know, he look at the likes of Getaway Trump. Yeah. It's Kate's son.
It looked a very good race on paper.
It looked a good race
before,
at the time, yeah.
And now,
and obviously Brewing Up a Storm, maybe would have won next time out. He might have beaten Birchdale, so that kind of counters that argument that we're not sure about that race. The one thing about Champ, which is the damning stat, which kind of puts me off on 2 counts, is that all 16 winners of that shallow hurdle that have gone to try and double up in the Ballymore have failed. And there's been some good horses in the past. Yeah. Now, it's only a stat, and the stats are obviously there to be broken. I'm just putting it out there. But the other one as well is he's a 7-year-old, and only one 7-year-old's ever won it since 1971, and that's French Holly. So he's got 2 huge stats to overcome, Champ. And Nicky Henderson hasn't got an overly strong race record in the race either. He won it with Simon Sig, but he's had some real high-profile blowouts. At the prices, he just wouldn't be for me. I think Battle Over Doyen's a better horse than him. And the other one is Sam's Profile. Now, Joe's already mentioned him, but I'd put him up as well, didn't I? The 2 of them at that race.
20-1 Sam's Profile.
He was 25, so I still think 20-1's an insult for this horse. Now, I think he would have gone very close to beating Battle Over Doyen. He made 2 notable errors in that race. The first of them was 4 out, the first down the back straight, when he got his hind legs caught in that hurdle. He was in 3rd at the time, or 2nd, and he ended up going into the hurdle a length behind the leader, and then he ended up dropping back about 4 or 5 lengths. He made the ground back up again, and then he made another little niggly error at 2 out. But I love the way he sort of got his head down, didn't put him off, he sort of like shrugged that aside. And he reminds me very much of First Lieutenant, who won this race a few years ago. Now Mouse has already put him to one side as well. He hasn't run him in another race. So I think those 2 have obviously booked their ticket for the festival off the back of that run in January. Both sets of Connections thought, right, okay, we've got a Ballymore horse. That's the best Irish form. Away we go. and I think one of those two will win. Hopefully for financial purposes, at a better price. It's Sam's profile, but either way, I'd be devastated if one of those two horses don't go very close to winning.
Tony?
No massive opinion. I think the top of the market is pretty much as they should be. I wouldn't be getting involved at the current prices, that's for sure. I think City Island's interesting. 11 to a Betfair at the time of speaking here. I think that's fair. I think that defeat of Dallas de Picton early in the season is pretty solid form. Didn't have much to beat last time, owned by the sponsors, so you know you're going to get a run for your money there. What I would say is I do know Nico's quite keen on Bright Forecast. I think he likes the horse. In fact, I did a piece of him before its reappearance, before it won at Newbury, and he was quite positive about it. And I said, you know, this is an 80 to 1 chance. He said, no, he goes all right. And it duly won. He was landing some few bets there into 20s, and it's really progressed since. I think that's second to Mr. Fisher and the Rossington Main last time's a good performance. I think Bright Forecast could well be the overpriced one at 40 to 1 each way with Hills. So if you are looking for a bigger one outside of the front two of the market, I think Bright Forecast at 40s, that's all in with Hills. If you want the safety net, you know, a lot of horses fall by the wayside. You can get 33 to 1 each way with Bet365 are offering a quarter of the odds as well. So it's a toss-up where you do that. You may want to take the safety net, but I think Bright Forecast for me.
Great for me to hear you say that, as I managed to get a couple of quid on at 360s last week, just before when it started coming out, he was going for the Ballymore. So someone was snoozing somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Hopefully you haven't done Nico a disservice by putting him on a camel.
No. Yeah. We were a bit scared that he was on the camel. He rode the camels. We were a bit scared that if he fell off, that would be the headline would be Altior jockey injured in camel race. But thankfully he did okay.
Or it would have been Oddschecker folds after Lawson.
He gave it. He gave it unsurprisingly a very quiet ride at the back. It was definitely not off that day, his camel. So Bright Forecast 40 to 1 as Tony says with Hills. And Joe, who are you?
I've mentioned Bright Forecast and Sam's profile earlier on.
I promise I'll come to you first next.
So I'd echo those. I think Bruno Up a Storm is a really good horse, but I'd fancy him more in the Supreme than I would here. I think Classical Dream will turn out to be a very, very good horse. He's come from the same owner, breeder, trainer as where we got Benny the Idea. And I know that Willie has always thought a good bit of him, and I think he'll probably appreciate the step up and trip. And there's a good chance, reading the tea leaves, that Henry will split his two novice mares up, Sonoria and Honeysuckle. He said last week that it's unlikely that both will run in the mares novice. Here, I think they both need 2.5 miles anyway. If one of them was coming here getting £7, it'll take a very good horse to beat either of them. I think they're both very, very good.
And Salsaretta still entered for the race?
She is. She's probably more likely than not to run in the mares novice. Willie likes to keep them to their own sex where he can. She was unlucky the last day. We may as well just cover her off here. She beat Felix Deji at Limerick on St. Stephen's Day, and then she went for the 2 mile 5 race at the Dublin Racing Festival, and she didn't fall. The horse in front of her flattened the hurdle, and it hit the ground, bounced up and tripped her. So Patrick effectively just came off. She then did 2 circuits of the track and winged everything. So she's a mare that I stuck my neck out at the time to buy, and she is pretty good. She made her debut for us in this race last year when she was knackered, when she fell at the last. But I do think she's good, and I think she will come onto it on the Thursday, but she's a hell of an each way price. I think in the mares novice she's way overpriced if she does turn up there, and which I think she will more than likely.
That's good. So if you're listening for the Wednesday preview, you're getting some extra insight there as well. And then onto the RSA now, and a lot of change in this market over the last 24 hours or so, where Santini, who's been favourite for so long, now out to 7-2 best price, with the money coming in for Delta Work, who's now 3 to 1 fav, and top of the game at 5 to 1. But that price seems to be going as well. So seemingly the market not particularly happy or not supportive of Santini, despite positive words coming from Nicky Henderson after he was taken for a spin on the weekend. Tony, how do you see this one?
I think Delta Work's the right favourite. Wouldn't have any argument with the price at 3 to 1, even though that's shortening. Santini, I can leave well alone at 7 to 2. I do know they were very happy with the work we're on the blind side at Newbury on Sunday, but then again, and it apparently was a decent piece of work as well. It wasn't, they didn't dawdle around, but
surprising to see the price drifting out on the back of that after.
I just think it was too short anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they think it might have been, put it spot on, but it just looks a bit slow to me, that horse. I think there'll be some pacier horses in here. Front three in the market, I wouldn't have a massive, kind of argument with any of the top three in the betting, albeit I think, Santini is too short, even at the top price, 7-2. You'll probably only get your money back, but if you want to have a bet in the race and not lose, from a trading point of view as well, OK Corral should not be 8-1 non-1 no bet for this race.
Yeah.
If OK, I know it's unlikely, but if they did switch it to this race, it would be probably second favourite, if that. I mean, the whole thing about non-1 no bet is you take a price and it will be considerably shorter if it runs. OK Corral is probably about a 7-2, 4-1 shot. If it runs, it's 8-1 non-1 no bet. Forget about the 16s. It is in a couple of places all in. But yeah, if you want, you're probably going to get your money back on the day at the very least. OK Corral, if it does run, you've got eights about a 4-1 shot tops. But that's all I've got to say about that race. Nothing major.
Just going back to the Sunday, and obviously you whether you've spoken to Nico or not, but interesting to know that on the blind side as well, in from 16s into as short as 8-1 as well. So is there any possibility that the market knows more than what we're hearing in the press?
Nico spoke to me. I did a little piece. He spoke to me on the way to Huntingdon. Might Bite worked on his own, and he sounded genuinely upbeat. I mean, it takes a leap of faith, to back that horse. But that said, he's had his win tweak. Nicky Henderson's got a very good record when the horse is coming back from a wind up. So if they think he's going to get decent ground, I think Might Bite, they are increasingly bullish about running a much better race than he has done this season, albeit that won't take much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was keen on him. They jumped 10 fences yesterday with Santini on the blind side. He did say they went single file for the first 5 fences, so literally just not a searching gallop. They knew what they're doing, and they quickened up for they jumped those 5 fences again, and then they just lengthened in the straight. So I do know they were struggling to get both there, albeit off the few jabs, but it sounds like they were very happy with them both without going overboard. Okay. But I took, from speaking to Nico, what I took out of it, that Might Bite was probably the one they were very, very happy with.
So this, as a disclaimer, this is being recorded on Monday morning. So if this is all changing in the next couple of days, that's when we're recording. Joe, coming to you next now, so you can hopefully jump in ahead before Andy gives you a selection.
Is Drover's Lane running here?
I believe so, yeah.
I'd give him a shout.
25-1 with Hills. Yeah,
I'd give him a shout. I think Rebecca Curtis does fairly well with novice chasers, at least staying novice chasers. He's in the JLT as well, I think. I just thought... Tony's bang on, I've nothing more to add there. I think Delta Work is probably the right fav. Ditch Eat is roaring about top of the game. Nicky's always loved Santini. They're probably the 3 standout ones at the top of the market. But if you wanted to look at something at a decent price, I think Drover's Lane. I just think that she's put him away since December at Cheltenham, and has clearly been targeting this race. Or at least a festival, and I just think he's a little bit overpriced, considering there's not a huge amount of depth.
It's interesting you say that. Market. Interesting you say about Drover's Lane. I mean, if you look at the Betfair Exchange price, it's pretty much bang on the 25s, and obviously you might be looking to back it each way as well. So, though it's tiny sums involved, the market does suggest it's going to turn up, and it does suggest that 25 or Hills might be under pressure as well. So,
just think behind the front 3 in the market, which, as you say, are probably the right 3. He just presents a little bit of value.
Andy?
Yeah, I agree with Tony with Delta Work. He looks just thoroughly professional. You often find that the RSA winner goes to a horse like that, who's not a particularly sexy type, but he's got that ability just to grind out a result. And the fact that he won at the festival as well last year, that's another important thing to mention. And when Glenlow came up alongside him as well at the last, he just would not let him go. He's like a boa constrictor, wasn't he? He just tightened his grip and found plenty for pressure. And that's the thing about Delta Work. Every time you put him under pressure, he finds. When Larichburg come there, going well against him in the Drimore, he found more that day. And he was good good last time when we saw him at Leopardstown. I like horses that jump around Leopardstown as well efficiently. And that's what he is, an efficient jumper. I don't think he's overly exuberant, perhaps a little bit careful, but I think you also want that as well, a horse with a bit of self-preservation that doesn't go and headbutt one, that looks after himself a little bit, that can work himself into a race. I think that's another important point to make about a horse, not expending too much energy over 3 miles. My only doubt with regards to top of the game, I do think that's the best UK form, obviously, Grade 1 race that one Great Trissig's mare won, and the time figures are excellent. They ran the last circuit 2 seconds quicker than Clanders Oboe, so they were obviously operating at a very strong pace. I've watched top of the game a few times. He just looked, every single time that you put him under maximum pressure at the end of his race, he just looks as though whether it's strength, weakness, or he's not quite the finish article, he hasn't quite got home. He didn't get home in the Coral Cup last year over 2.5. He definitely didn't get home in that Kempton race. He looked laboured on the running.
I can't get Ascot out of my head either.
Yeah.
When he 2 Decembers ago, whenever it was, he was all over the shop.
Absolutely.
Did he whip round at the start at Exeter as well?
It was an extraordinary run, yeah. I mean, he gave
Yeah.
Black Op and another good horse.
Defi Desul.
Defi
Desul,
Desul,
yeah.
it's 20 length
Yeah,
head
yeah.
start. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, this horse has got an absolute shed load of ability, there's no doubt about it.
There's a definite kink in him somewhere.
Yeah, but like if Delta Work and Top of the Game are like side by side or close by each other coming down the hill, and I think there's going to be a small field here, so I can't see him being strung out. There's only going to be like 8, 9 runners maximum. So the cream will come to the top. I can't believe that Delta Work won't outstay Top of the Game from that point onwards. I mean, last week Delta Work, when I was doing a preview, was like 4-1, and he looked at the proverbial bet for nothing each way, 4-1. He's now dried up. I think he'll go off favourite, 5-2, 9-4. Santini's gone wonky on the exchanges for some reason. There's nobody wants to back him. I don't know what piece of work he did the other day, but clearly hasn't impressed. And I can't find any dangerous floaters in this race. Well, normally I like to look for the sneaky one at a price. Joe's Driver's Lane's a good shout. But a lot of them seem to be going elsewhere. A lot of these, as we mentioned, are going for the 4 mile. I think everyone wants to run in the 4 mile, and nobody wants to run the RSA this year. So you're better off just sticking with the best horses down the front end of the market. Delta Work for me is the best of them.
Just one very quick, I know we're a bit rushed here, but just one quick point about the exchange prices. There are very, very illiquid markets, but always don't just look on the lay side.
Yeah.
And obviously, if people queue out to back it, it's a positive sign. But for example, Santini, it is that nobody wants to back it at the moment. But the last trading price is just 4.6, so it's not weak as such. Nobody's laid it at big prices, but nobody's just queuing out to back it, which is a concern in itself. But what I would say, when you look at especially illiquid markets like a lot of these Betfair markets are, you've got to just look at the last trading price rather than...
Of course, but also worth pointing out that currently there's, the 224 quid looking to lay at 4.5, which given the lack of money in the market is significant enough.
But also, it is 7-2.
Yeah.
You can get 7-2 fixed odds. So,
of course.
And if you've taken a view that is underpriced, then you would be top of the queue.
Yeah, so on to the Coral Cup now, where we have Eurodale 8-1, Off You Go 12-1, Dallas Depictions 14-1, Brio Conti 20s, and 20s the rest really. Again, this is another one where I'll put it to you guys to let me know if you've got a fancy, otherwise we can move swiftly on.
No idea what's going to run, and I'll probably look for a progressive novice on the day.
Yep.
I'll be only interested in a few. I think Early Doors is an interesting runner. I think he ran against Apple's Jade last time, and he clearly had no chance there. But I think he was 3rd or 4th in the boys' race last year for Joseph O'Brien. And he's around about 20-25 to 1. He's also entered in the boys' race again. He might well go back to that race to try and lay the ghost there. But yeah, look, this race is almost impossible. Particularly, you're going to get 6, 7, 8 places on the day with some firms. It's like, why do you want to bet now when you've got everything in front of you? You know what the ground is, you know the full field, and you get all the 8.
I guess the one thing I'd say for people who will be looking to have a bet on the day, I mean, what would you say are the pointers and the steers that you should be looking for?
I do like.
Not even that easy.
From obviously from my perspective, when I'm on numbers, I want something that's run well in a strongly run race. I thought that Brio Conti race the other day at Ascot was quite a good one. I'm just trying to find it as well. There was a horse that finished 3rd in that race that I thought ran quite well. It'll come to me in a second.
Just while you're looking at that, Andy,
just
one thing, I haven't got any opinion at this point whatsoever. But obviously it's in the news today, JP, one of the horses that JP had that he's pulled out of the festival because he thinks they're badly handicapped and be given more by the UK handicapper is Jeski. What's the feeling in Ireland about how the handicapper, the UK handicapper has treated the Irish horses? Because there's seems to be a blanket rise with one or two exceptions.
It is. I mean, last year there was almost a pattern. Depending on where you were, he was kind of just applying 3 or 5 depending on what your mark was. But this year there's a few anomalies, I guess, towards it. I think has JP also pulled his Grand National horse out? Overnight, he pulled him out of the Grand National, I think, as well because of the discrepancy there. I mentioned earlier the
Whisper in the Breeze.
Whisper in the Breeze, and I think he's been fairly badly treated, but it's some people are going to be happy and some are going to be disappointed. I mean, I think at this stage it just is what it is. I mean, the Irish trained horses still win their fair share of handicaps, so I don't think we can really be throwing the toys out of the pram too much.
I remember famously when presenting Percy, everyone was up in arms with that. Oh, he's got £11 more than the Irish mark, and he absolutely dotted up.
I wish it was badly handicapped. I was on Barney Duran at 30 and 25.
Oh God.
Anyway, no opinion on that.
Yeah. Ballyandy was the one.
Ballyandy.
I thought he ran really well in that Kempton race. Ascot race, and he's 25
plenty keen as well that day, wasn't he? He was doing loads. Yeah.
He was, but he's got Cheltenham Festival form. You know, he seems to have just come back to his own.
A little bit better form.
Now they've gone back over hurdles with him because he hated fences.
Ballyandy is
25
to 1 as well. Yeah. So, but as we say, maybe one to wait and see. The bigger place terms, which will come out on the day. Currently 5 places, Max, Smith Hills and Paddy's, but we can expect plenty more than that come the day. On to the Champion Chase now, where Altior, obviously the very hot favourite at 4 to 9. We have Min at 13 to 2, Footpad at 10 to 1, Underso 16 to 1, So Royale 16 to 1, 25 to 1 bar. Joe, let's talk about Min. And what can you tell us?
Yeah, he's a good horse. He's come up against Altior a few times now and has come off second best, but he's a good horse in his own right. I thought last year he was going to win the Queen Mother at the bottom of the hill, and then Nicky's machine just absolutely went into overdrive coming over the last. He could go here, he could go to Ryanair. I think the ground will play a part in the decision. I imagine Ruby will probably play a part in the decision. I believe Daryl Jacob has said the decision is already made that Footpad goes to Ryanair at a preview the other night. Maybe it is with that horse, it's not with ours. But, you know, I don't think there's any guarantee that he would actually get the Ryanair trip on softer ground, just given his style of racing. I think the walk in the parks are totally unexposed at longer trips. You know, Min and Duvan are probably the first real crop. And you know they're 7 and 8 years of age of his horses racing over here, and they've been predominantly at 2 to 2.5 miles. I just don't think Min's style of racing is very conducive to going too far out and trip with him. Albeit he won the Durkin this year. The ground was plenty lively enough for him at Leopardstown the last day. He's in really good form at home. He acts around the track. Look, we've been there with Duvan, got beat at whatever was it, 2 to 9 or something like that, or 2 to 7 in the Queen Mother. It can happen. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So why are we taking Altior on again? But I just think it's probably the right race for him. He's probably just a 2-miler, but it's very hard to see us beat Altior. But if you're not in, you can't win.
Andy, this can be another one where you're looking to have a bet in the without the favourite market.
Not necessarily. I'll be pretty convinced, even though it's not official yet, that Min would run in this race. That Footpad will go in the Ryanair because, you know, obviously with Sco Royal in that as well, 2 owners. What are we wasting a bullet? That just seems a logical path. So if Footpad doesn't run and Under Sco doesn't run, for instance, then at current prices 13 to 2 with William Hill. I mean, Min's got to be one of the best all time each way, isn't he?
If he turns out, just to that's not no run no bet. So if he doesn't run,
I think it's worth taking the risk, to be honest, because unless something goes wrong with him, I can't see another race. You know, why would I just wouldn't run him in the Ryanair, run him in this. But he's a serious piece of kit, Min. I mean, I've always liked him right from day one. He's always clocked some fantastic times. And he looked like he was going to. I think he tried it odds on last year in the race, didn't he? At the bottom of the hill.
From memory, Altior traded 7 to 1 plus in running, and Min traded 1.22, so 2 to 9 in running.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to pan out again, but I think there's a good chance if you back Min each way, you could get out of the win part of the bet at some stage in the race at much shorter odds, because I think the race will develop into a match between the two, because I think they're just by a million miles the best 2 in the race, and they'll pull clear. But I think you can, scrounge around with Min and put him in some each way multiples to the first. I think he's almost your banker each way horse of the festival from an each way perspective. You put Bouvedere in, you put a few others in. If you fancy something in, particularly the races where there's going to be single figure fields, you can still get some pricing. You could put Delta work in, you could put Paisley Park in. The ones that are almost certain to be in the frame, you can get some nice each way multiples rolling on there, make money without even winning, without having to nominate the winner.
I'm open to correction. I think the only time Ruby has ridden against Altior was when he rode Royal Caviar in the Arkle.
Right,
until the Tingle Creek this year.
Really?
No, so whether if he gets a read on things or whatever it is, but and Ruby, I think Min's best numbers apart from last year, the Queen Mother, have always come with Ruby on, and that's not a slight against Paul. I just think Ruby does seem to get on very well, gel very well with the horse.
Absolutely, yeah. So as it stands at the moment, I'd just be putting all my eggs in one basket and backing Min each way again.
Tony?
I'm looking at the without market here. I think Andy might be reaching for a Betfair Sportsbook account, because you can get 11 to 8 min without the favourite here. But presumably, if you think it's a two-runner race and you're kicking out or out of it, I think 11 to 8 will interest you. But the two each way that I'm going to play here, the angle here is hopefully, like I said, we've already said it's going to be on the softer side on the opening day. They're not going to water on the Tuesday with that in mind. If it is drying conditions from Tuesday to Wednesday onwards, I think we're going to get decent ground, and that brings God's Own and Ordinary World into the equation. Now, you can get 20 to 1 each way without Altior, 20 to 1 God's Own and 25 to 1 Ordinary World. I think they're very interesting. Obviously, you can't see him beating Altior, and perhaps even Min, but I think if you're getting paid for fourth, in that situation. God's Own obviously has got a really good history in the race. It's been better than has done for a while this year. Won the Howden Gold Cup. Was giving £6 to Charbel in the Peterborough last time, so I don't think was a particularly modest run. Maybe so in Grade 1 terms in this kind of race, but I think he'll be ridden for places again. So I think the each way angle there is without Altior is very, very interesting. Ordinary World is another horse that needs good ground, or the better ground, is going to be in his favour, but has got really good course form, was a good second to Min in the Dublin Chase. And if you go back and have a look at the race last year, when it was soft, soft stroke heavy last year, Ordinary World was tanking coming around the bend in this race. In fact, for a horse that was such a big price pre-race, he actually traded at 5.1 in running, 4 to 1 in running last year. And that was on ground that wouldn't have suited. Yeah. Again, I think he's a real good each way player at 25 to 1. So 20s each way without Altior with God's Own, and 25 to Ordinary World. That's the way I'll be playing the race.
He's run up behind Min a good few times as a novice as well. Ordinary World, I think he's been second to him a few times.
I just think the different. If you're looking at 11 to 8 min without Altior, and 25 to Ordinary World with the each way angle in there as well.
Yeah. One thing we haven't touched on is the pace angle in the race, because even if Min or Footpad run, there's a reason Nicky Henderson was lamenting the demise of Special Tiara a few weeks ago as well, because there doesn't seem to be much in the way of confirmed front runners. I think at the moment it could turn into a bit of a tactical affair.
Well, obviously if you are taking on the Fav, you've got that jumping left scenario, haven't you? Yeah. They don't seem Nico's adamant, and in fact he got pretty angry, about the suggestions that he may resurface at Cheltenham, but there's always that possibility once they've done it once, as you well know.
So Andy going for the min each way at 13 to 2 with William Hill in the hope that he turns up to the race, although Joe has said that nothing is decided as of yet. Onto the cross country now, where Tiger Roll is the 11 to 10 favourite, obviously a hero from last year's Cheltenham Festival, and then the Grand National winner as well. We've got Overnat at 6 to 1, Josie's Orders at 8 to 1, Ultra Gold 16 to 1, Hurricane Darwin 16 to 1, Don Poli 16 to 1. Yeah, again, I'll put this one out to the floor. Or to Tony, I'll come to you first.
I've never had a bet in it and never will.
There you go.
And and you probably can ditto that for the champion bumper as well.
Perfect. I'll ignore you for that too.
Moving along swiftly.
Well, I know that as Andy says, he can find a bet in any race, so I'll come to you last, Andy, and we'll come to Joe first.
We've got Ballycasey entering
Yeah.
this, and he was one that we'd have given a squeak to. He got a kick at the start at Punchestown the last day, and then made a bad mistake at Ruby's double, which I think was the first time round, and we ended up pulling him up. He was a bit sore after it. He may or may not run. That'll be a very late call. Look, I think Tiger Roll actually absolutely danced all over him. But fact of the matter is, one round there, and he's had a wind up, I think I read somewhere in the last couple of weeks, so he could improve another little bit again. But other than that, it's not a race I've ever paid a huge amount of attention to.
Andy?
Yeah, I totally respect Tony's perspective about having a bet in the race. But actually, to be fair, this is not a bad betting race. They usually bet 4 places on the day. And you pretty much get a clean race. You hardly get any fallers in this, which is quite a crumb of comfort if you're having a bet in a chat. I can't remember a horse falling. Yeah. They just look after each other. They kind of like, jog around for the best part of 3.5 miles, and then basically they sprint down from that canal turn onwards.
Take the wrong route half the time.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's happened to me before. I did back the one that took the wrong route.
If that hasn't sailed you, nothing will.
But there are grounds for thinking there's a decent each way bet in this, and I think Auvignon's definitely one of them. Obviously, he misses engagement in the Grand National, which means they can target him specifically for this. He goes particularly well over these cross-country fences, and he looked almost a revitalised character the day when they put the blinkers on him in the Paddy Power chase. He absolutely bolted up that day. Obviously, the blinkers have got to work again, but he was 4th in the race last year. I think he was placed as well in the year before. He looks the obvious each way again this year, so he's another one to stick in your each way multiples with Min.
I mean, you'd be swerving. I mean, Tiger Roll obviously probably not expected to win, let alone win the way he did a couple of weeks ago, which saw him clipped in.
He was astonishing the other day. I mean, numbers wise, it was just almost. You almost had to have a double take and look at your stopwatch. You're thinking, how can a horse?
What, bet for SP of 22-23 as well?
Yeah, that won a Grand National, outrunning some decent hurdlers in a fast time. So he's obviously in the form of his life.
If it was yours, would you stick him in the stayers? If Sam Crow Gallop on Tuesday didn't pan out?
There's a really good argument for that, because I think that the Stayers Hurdle is probably one of the weakest races of the week.
We'll get there.
Strength in depth.
Yeah.
What kind of time did he clock last time, Tiger Roll?
Very good. His sectionals are very good. I think they're around about a couple of seconds quicker than the other 2 races on the card.
You would consider it the way. We'll come to the Stayers obviously in a bit, but
I'd sooner.
You'd be tempted, wouldn't you?
Ruby said to me he was cantering all over them halfway down the back of Navan. He said it was over at that stage.
Stayers Hurdle.
He was doing a half speed beside.
Stayers Hurdle or cross country.
Well, I think their aims are national, hence the cross country.
I don't think that changes their mind.
That's what I think their main aim is.
Yeah.
So next, the Fred Winter Band of Outlaws 7-1 favourite, Friend or Foe 9-1, Gardens of Babylon 12-1, Lethal Steps 12-1, Fine Brunello 12-1, Surin 14-1, 16-1 Bar. Joe, anything here for you?
I think the juvenile hurdling division is extremely weak in the UK. I think Joseph, if he's going to end up going down to his father's place of work every October for the next decade and deciding I'll have 10 Camelots, 2 Galileos and as many others as he wants, we're all going to be in trouble. But I think he's got Star Max who's coming forward. Oddly, I think there's a horse in the UK called Capone who seems to have a lot of ability, but I think he's got temperament issues. He seems to get fairly hot under the collar pre-race. And if he got in at a huge price, Noel Meade has a horse called Union Gap. He hasn't run since he was second to May's runner of Willie's down in Cork in December, if I'm not mistaken. He's no certainty to get in, but if he did, he might be. He had a few quick runs over hurdles back before the end of the year. I think he could run very well if he got in.
Union Gap 40-1 with Betfair Sportsbook. Tony, having said you don't have the race before and you no interest in the race after this, I might as well come to you now.
I haven't got a massive opinion at this point. I think this is the kind of race where you'll play it on the day. You'll probably look for it. There are a couple of firms, Paddy Power and Hills, are offering 5 places already, which is fair play to them. I'd probably play it on the day when we know the ground and when we know the opposition and the pace, etc. I think if you're just looking at it from a numbers point of view, obviously everyone works on the basis of a differential of maybe £40-45 between flat rating and jumps rating, whether that's right or wrong. We don't know, but Lethal Steps was a 100 plus rated horse in the flat. Is shaped encouragingly, as they say, on 3 starts over hurdle so far. A mark of in the low 130s is favourable when it compared to the flat mark. I think it will step up considerably on that, and a 12 to 1. It's probably a fair price. I think Joseph of the Band of Outlaws, I think they'll be happy enough with that rating, even though the UK Handicap has given it £5 extra. But I thought he was impressive last time, but they seem to think they might have a stamina concern about Band of Outlaws at Cheltenham, given the Cheltenham track. But for me at the moment, maybe Lethal Steps.
Lethal Steps currently 12 to 1 with Hills, Betfair Sportsbook and Black Type and 888 Sport as well. Andy?
Well, it's well documented that Joseph O'Brien's dominated this division all the way through the season. He's got the favourite for the Triumph, and he's got a big player in the Supreme if Fakir Duduris does make it. So he's got a good line in pretty much every form line. The fact that he's brought Fakir Duduris over as well to just kind of like feel how good he is against the English horses will give him even more confidence. I've backed Band of Outlaws. Antipat actually put it up for it's one of my few horses I put up with Oddschecker that's still running and has actually shortened in price, which is a bit of a rarity. But I was very impressed with him last time out. It was a good little race that was when which one he took, and I thought he was good the time before as well at Limerick when the ground was bottomless. So stamina-wise, I wouldn't be having too much of an issue on that front. He's got a good turn of foot as well, something that a lot of these haven't got. And the other one I'd throw into the mix as well is another Irish horse called Hannon, one of John McConnell's. Yeah. John's got a very good record when he brings his horses over here, particularly his juveniles, and this fella's just had the 3 runs. He's a nice looking horse at Camford Cliffs, and he was second the other day to a horse of Gordon Ellis called Chosen Mate in a Grade 2 race against the older horses, and with one more stride he would have won. He only got beat a nose. It was just
Jockey lost his whip as well.
Yeah, Jockey lost his whip, and he lost his shoe on the run-in as well. I was just going back and watching the video, so the shoe gone flying, and I went back and it was definitely his.
Musselburgh races worked out.
The Musselburgh races worked out. Obviously, he beat Liver that day. The only thing I don't know anything about with him is the ground. He's 3 runs been on good to firm, good and good. So if it was soft, I'd be absolute total guesswork. But he's better than I think what we've seen so far. The English Handicap, unfortunately, give him a shot across the bows and put him up to 139. You can't have it both ways. If he's 119, he's not going to get in. No, he's in. So a lot of these Irish horses have been raised, but they've been raised so they've actually like at least they can get in. Yeah. So I don't think that point's been raised. I've backed Band of Outlaws, and it's 25 to 1 currently. I do think that Hannon's hugely underrated.
Yeah, Hannon 25 to 1 with Hills, Black
5
Type
places as well, isn't it? That
Hills 5 places. Yeah. Again, a bit of blue around as well. So that 25s may not last too long.
No.
And I think the pricing exchange is pretty tight to that as well. So the last race of the day, the Champion Bumper, we already know that Tony doesn't give this any time, so you'll be hearing from him next on the Thursday podcast. But Andy...
I could lie, but I won't.
Blue Sari's 5 to 1, Envoy LN is 11 to 2, Get in the Queue is 10 to 1, Meticulous 12 to 1, 14 to 1. Abracadabra. I mean, I always think if you can pick the win the Champion Bumper, then good for you. But Tony, it's one I swerve. But
the thing is with the Champion Bumper is that obviously, from being a speed figure man, you don't get that many horses that have done a good number coming into this just because of the nature of bumper races. They're often slowly run and then they quicken up from the last half mile. Blah blah blah. Looking at Blue Sari the other day, they basically dawdled down to where the wings of the third last wire, and he's quickened up really well. Come clear of your useful field. We know he can operate at a good level, and we know he can quicken. But what he's going to be like in a strongly run environment, I have no idea because there's no evidence to tell us that. So for that reason, I probably won't want to back him at a short price. We know Envoy Allen can handle those conditions. When he won at Leopardstown, it was a strongly run race, and he looked very strong. But by an absolute country mile, the best UK horse I've got running a fast time, not once but twice, is this Get in the Queue.
High price.
The day when he won at, I think it was Utoxeter, first time
Utoxeter, then it was Exeter a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he clocked a phenomenal time. And straight away I went, whoa, this horse is useful. And I put him up last week. He was in that leg of that really good day I had.
5 out of 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those fluky days. And we couldn't see much of it because there was the fog, I think. But he ended up winning by 15 lengths. But luckily, at least I could time him for when he went into the fog and came out the fog, because the 2 points I do him from were still valid. And he was this is amazing, he was a full 8 seconds quicker than Epperton.
Really?
The mare of Nicky Henderson's who won early on in the card. You're talking 40 lengths he beat a mare, and obviously I know the mare's got to jump 4 or 5 flights of hurdles from that point, but still an extraordinary amount of ground that horse beat a good horse by. So I know that get in the queue can run at a fast time. He's the only proven fast speed figure horse I've got in the UK. Now he's obviously owned by the Rooneys, who've been well documented. They might not want runners here. You know, very similar to Gigginstown. They want to be protecting their horses. They didn't run one of their better horses in the race last year, trained by Fergal O'Brien, because they thought the hot house nature of the bumper might just be too much for their horse. But if he did run and they decided to take the chance, and I think he's a serious player.
They are having runners, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are.
Well, the announcement came out the day the entries for the bumper closed.
Yeah, I think
hint, nudge, wink.
Well, sounds like it. The decision was made 5 minutes after getting the Q1.
I think they probably couldn't literally get their breath. But numbers-wise, I mean, he run to a championship time. Like I've got a guide, and my figures tell me whether a horse is a championship horse based on the clock time they clock and the figure I can give them. The average win of a champion bumper is around about 65, 66 on my figures, and he did a 68 when he won Exeter. So he's run beyond championship level before he's run at Cheltenham.
Yeah.
So he's the one that's put the marker down.
And under penalty as well, or is that?
He carried it. If
It takes a good one to carry.
I might have a bet in the bumper this year, actually.
He's a seriously good horse.
Well, get in the queue currently 10-1. Be quick. This is Monday morning. And let's hope when this podcast comes out, Andy Holding and Tony Calvin haven't taken all that tens away from us. But and Joe, anything for you here?
I think going forward, I think this is going to be one of the better bumpers than previous years. Blue Sari looked very good. They clearly think of the world of the JP horse that was second, and he looked to be cantering when he was brought down in a bit of a freak situation next time out. Andy has said all that has to be said on getting the queue. Nichols has restocked with some really nice younger horses. Silver Forever won the mare's bumper at Ascot. He's got Ask for Glory and Flick of Voyou. I don't think he's ever had many runners in the race, so I don't know who's going to line up. Envoy Allen, after he won on debut at Fairy House on Hatton's Grace Day, he wasn't going to Cheltenham, and now he is, potentially as a result of Malone Road being out. But the one I will give a shout out to at a huge price will be Paul Nolan's, who we spoke about earlier about Discorama, his latest exhibition, owned and bred by Jim Myrna, and he absolutely danced in a Nace, I think it was back in January, under a jockey having his first ride, or his first winner at least. I'm assuming he'll get a professional in the bumper, and I think he is going to be totally overpriced. He's about 25s or 33s in places.
Yeah, 33-1 pretty much across the board there. So that's the latest exhibition for Joe. Any more to add?
Yeah, just to add on that, get in the queue. I mean, Teddy likes this angle. You can actually still back him 10-1 non-runner no bet, can't you? Get in the queue with 365.
Really? Yeah, with 365. Yeah.
So it's the best price in the village, and if he doesn't run, you get your money back. So that's an unbelievable offer, because he'll go off close to favourite, particularly if Ireland doesn't run.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a drawback there, but I won't go into it.
Okay.
None of us can get on with it.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Certainly not. Certainly.
The listeners might be able to, though. We'll quickly come around for your naps of the day. Andy, I'll start with you.
The first race. I'd be all in on those two I put up. It's hard to put a nap out of those, because
but just Dutching
I'll be confident of Battle of Doyen or Sam's Profile winning that first race.
Okay, Tony.
Again, just betting without. In the Champion Chase, 20-1, 3 places, God's Own at 20s and Ordinary World at 25. So it may well be out to your min a book for the first 2 places, but we got third and fourth playing for us in that market.
Joe?
Brewing up a storm in the Ballymore.
And is that 12-1. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to the panel of guests for giving their insight. We're recording one of these on Tuesday, for Wednesday, for Thursday and for Friday. So if you've just listened to this one, make sure you look for those ones either as a podcast on all the podcast stations or also on YouTube as well. And thank you very much for listening.